Welcome to the site Overcome Your Mountain of Debt. In this tutorial, we will discuss the debts page and how to calculate your own personal debt plan. When we come to the debts page, there are instructions at the top on how to use this page. Below the instructions, there is a list of debts. This list of debts is the same list that is found in the book, so the example debt payoff that is illustrated in the book is outlined here on the website when you first come in, so that you have something to play around with. At the bottom of the page, you have some additional debt calculation and some display options for displaying additional information, and then the calculate button that is at the bottom. When we click the calculate button, it goes through the debt calculations for the debts as they are, as the information is entered on the debt listing, and any other options that are added, and we get a summary. The summary gives us some basic high-level information about our debt. There's 3 different columns that gives us summary information, labeled No Roll-Up, With Roll-Up, and What If. The No Roll-Up column is the column of our debts, the debt payoff, when we make the minimum payments, and only the minimum payments. So this has the maximum amount of money that will be paid out in our debts, and this is also the baseline for comparison of how much time and money is saved when we do a roll-up plan. With roll-up, that column shows us the information for doing a basic debt roll-up without any options. So with our minimum payment for our debts, when the first one is paid off, that payment for that debt that is just paid off gets paid to the next debt that has what we call the payment emphasis. The payment emphasis depends on the sort order of how we're determining our debt payoff. The what if column is based on the with roll-up when we have additional options that are added to our debt plan. As you see with right now, both of these columns are currently the same value. We did not add any additional options to our debt payoff. Above the summary information, we see various tabs, one labeled Highest Interest Rate, Lowest Balance, Payoff Order, Highest Payment to Debt Ratio, Lowest Interest Rate, Reverse Payoff Order, and Lowest Payment to Debt Ratio. As explained in the book, when we pay off our debts and we choose a strategy that will maximize either the interest saved or the time saved, there are some different strategies that can be used based on the makeup of our debts. So when we click on these, we notice that the values over here in the summary can change. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes the sort order doesn't change depending on which option is selected, which debt gets the next payment. This is not always the case. Sometimes highest interest rate is the best payoff. Actually, most of the time, highest interest rate becomes the best option for payoff. If we have a lot of debts that are just little small debts, lowest balance can give us a really good peace of mind when we knock out a bunch of debts all at once. Payoff order is when we have our debts lined up in the order that they're paid off with the minimum payment. There are some additional tabs with additional sort orders for calculating our debt plan, but we will not discuss those in this tutorial, maybe in a future tutorial. But just know that they're there, and there are additional options that can help to tailor and customize your own debt plan. In this tutorial, we are going to concentrate on just the highest interest rate, and we'll use that as an example. If we look at the with roll-up and the what if columns, currently right now they're the same because we don't have any options that have changed with our debt plan. Now the with roll-up has some interesting information in it concerning our debt plan with just paying the minimum payments and rolling them up to the next debt once one debt is paid off. In this case, in this simple example, The with roll-up, rolling up to the next debt with the next highest interest rate, saves $89,992.03. That's the interest savings. The payments haven't changed. The minimum payment is the same. The only difference is once the first payment is paid off, the payment for that debt goes to the next debt. You don't get that amount to go spend someplace else. That would be counterproductive and not help our debt plan. But if we just paid the minimum payment to the next debt, we would save that $89,992.03. The other interesting thing is that we saved 25 years and 2 months off of just paying the minimum payments for all of the debts. That's an incredible amount of savings. The with roll-up column without any options is impressive enough as it is, but if we want to tailor our debt plan and do some additional things, the what if column allows us to see what happens when we play around with some of the numbers and add some additional options to our debt plan. So some of the options that we have to work with when we want to do a what if scenario on our debts. Above the calculate button, we have some additional options that we can add to our debt plan. One is this additional margin and the lump sum amount. Now the lump sum amount is like, let's say your employer gives you a bonus, or you have some additional money that you want to just throw at a debt. And for our debt plan, in the debt calculation, we don't care which debt gets that. It's just whichever one the calculation determines should get it. And if we look at our options at the top of our summary, this would tell you, based on which option, which debt it would go to first. So let's say we want to throw $200 at a debt one time. This would be at the beginning of our debt calculation, and it will lower that debt's amount initially the first month by an additional $200. We enter that amount in, and we click calculate, and then when we look at our summary, we notice that the what if column is now different than the with roll-up. So the with roll-up has a savings of $89,992.03, but the what if does the debt roll-up and our additional options that we added. So the lump sum amount of $200 now takes us to a $90,000, $693.50 savings, and we save 25 years and 3 months versus 25 years and 2 months. So basically we threw 1 month of our payment down by adding that lump sum amount of $200, but we saved almost $700 in interest by doing that. Well, $700 in interest minus the $200 that we put in there, so about $500 in interest. Another option that we have for our what if scenario along with the lump sum amount is called margin. Now a lump sum amount is an amount that is added to our debt plan one time at the beginning of our debt plan calculations. The additional margin, however, is an amount that we add to each monthly payment. So an additional margin would be added to the minimum payment for the debt that currently has what we call the debt emphasis, the current emphasis, and that is determined by the sort order of our debt plan. So let's look at that. So I'm going to zero out the lump sum amount, and I'm going to add, say, $20 to our additional margin and click calculate again. When we look at our what if scenario, the additional $20 went to the debt with the highest interest rate. That helped to pay down that debt a little bit faster, and once it's paid off, then its minimum payment and the additional margin get added together and get rolled up into the next debt. If we look at our what if column, we see that compared to the with roll-up, we went from $89,992.03 to $93,075.88, and we dropped our payment time from 17 years 1 month to 16 years and 9 months. So we saved 4 months and almost $4,000 in interest by adding just $20 a month. These two options, the lump sum amount and the additional margin that affects our what-if calculations, are debt plan specific, meaning they are determined by the amount that you enter, but the debt plan pretty much says where they should go. So when you click calculate, the amounts are put into the debt plan kind of on autopilot, depending on the sort order for your debt plan calculation. Those sort orders, again, are these tabs at the top of this summary. So you really don't have a choice or any control over where they go, just the amounts that are added. However, in our debt listing here, we have some additional boxes that we can try to target how specific we want to get with those options. So in this scenario that we did, we had $20 that went to an additional margin. But let's say that we want to determine where those $20 go first, not necessarily have the calculations of the debt plan determine where they should go. So what we could do is we can make that 0, and then in these boxes where we have a column here for principal, a column here for payment, and another column for interest rate, we can play around with the values in here to see what would happen, what if we made a change. So if we wanted to add that $20, but we wanted to put them on a specific payment, we can add those $20 to any one of these. So let's say we want to add the $20 to this particular department store credit card. Let's say we really want to get rid of this credit card and we want to do it as fast as we can. So we can add the $20 to the current payment. So we'll make the payment $35 and hit calculate, and this will add that $20 to that particular card until it is paid off. And then, just like the additional margin down here for the entire debt plan, that $20 and that $15 for the department store credit card payment will then be rolled up into the next debt when the department store credit card is paid off. So if we look at this, that affected the what if slightly different than our original what if by putting the additional margin over here. It's now $93,012.21. So it saved a little bit less by putting it there because it wasn't necessarily the most efficient use of that $20 according to the debt plan. But if we really wanted to get rid of that credit card, that would be one way to do that. So we can take that out, put that $20 here, and calculate and see that value. Again, so this was instead of $75.88, it was $12.88. So there's a slight difference in putting it there. So the department store credit card number 2 was not the one with the payment emphasis. It probably was one of these with the 18%. Again, we're just looking at the highest interest rate cards.